When it comes to the name Lavida, I believe many Chinese families are very familiar with it. As a national family sedan that has sold over 6.5 million units domestically, Lavida has long become synonymous with a reliable family car. However, this generation called Pro seems a bit different, with a larger exterior size, an upgraded MQB platform, exclusive smart features and improvements. For users in the 100,000 yuan segment, what they care most about is whether the car is easy to drive, safe, and how durable the chassis is. In this episode of Car Expert Wang, we will look at this car from two dimensions, driving experience and teardown, to see if it is really as professional and pro as its name suggests. Wang is currently on the way to dismantle the car. This is its last journey. I've driven the Lavida Pro for a while. Its positioning is a relatively affordable A+ segment sedan. Over the years, I have some understanding of SAIC Volkswagen. They also do well in other price ranges. But at this 100,000 yuan level, SAIC Volkswagen truly has a systematic methodology. Especially in the A+ segment sedan category, it's essential to learn to give up some high-end configurations, retain some baseline designs, and figure out how to reduce costs and improve efficiency while maintaining quality. The upgrade of the old Lavida Pro actually includes many driving experience aspects, such as leather seats, a 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster, a 12.9-inch central control screen, and a 360-degree camera, all fully equipped. In terms of intelligence, although this car is gasoline-powered, it belongs to the new MQB EVO platform. It has an 815 cockpit chip, 15 radars and 5 cameras as part of the sensor system. The program includes front assistance, car intersection assistance, and blind spot lane change assistance. I tried all of these, though I don't usually use many of them myself. I use cruise control more often, especially on highways. The exterior features a dual front face design and front and rear glowing logos, which look nice at night. With 17-inch wheels and an extended A+ segment body size, it's nicknamed the Small Passat Pro. The wheelbase hasn't changed. Overall, it remains a classic MQB platform proportion. At this price, what people care about most is basic quality. Don't expect any extraordinary configurations beyond its class at the 100,000 yuan level. Lavida's most valuable strengths lie in its chassis and body, including emergency braking and sharp steering at high speeds, as well as stability against crosswinds. Recently, the weather in Beijing hasn't been great. I have experienced the visible upgrades in the shock absorption and isolation capabilities of this generation of Lavida Pro's chassis. At this level, it's impossible to achieve a floating or imperceptible ride. Actually, no car currently can. Some ads hope to present that the body doesn't move at all, but if you look carefully, those ads are done at specific frequencies and intervals. Lavida Pro definitely doesn't play such exaggerated tricks. What it can do is optimize wheel hop and selectively isolate vibrations and noises that drivers dislike at various frequencies, especially when we drive on a somewhat gravelly road. Road noise does transmit into the cabin, but the initial compression and rebound of the suspension feel clean. What we used to avoid in A-segment cars was that hard then soft, overly slack feeling with aftershocks. This generation suppresses bouncing and makes the transitions more coherent. It's like it first absorbs a layer of energy and then controls the body, reducing aftershocks significantly. Suspension actions feel more integrated, and the overall vehicle quality feels like it has an added filter layer. On a macro level, the subjective driving experience, especially the car's rear response, is particularly good. This might be what some reviewers call better tracking. We call it optimized lateral compliance, making it more like other orthodox members of the MQB family. Now at higher speeds, even if I go a bit faster, the chassis remains stable and steady. You can clearly feel that at some bridge joints the suspension has no aftershock. For example, at 120 km/h when you change lanes on the highway, it's very smooth. Overall, the body posture control is quite good. After upgrading the chassis of Lavida Pro, we can clearly see the whole chassis layout. The flatness is good, and the protective plates cover extensively. The front protective plate has 2 openings to help dissipate heat from the DQ200 transmission oil pan. The middle part of the chassis also has very comprehensive vertical protective plates on both sides. The exhaust runs through the central tunnel of the body, with 2 transverse reinforcements in the middle to enhance the vehicle's rigidity. The exhaust bends towards the resin fuel tank, connecting symmetrically to the muffler and fuel tank. It ends with a single-side dual-outlet exhaust with heat insulation protections, which are done very thoroughly and cover basically everything. The rear spare tire well has comprehensive armor spraying on the chassis. In fact, the entire chassis spraying is quite extensive. From previous teardown experience, some brands only do minimal spot spraying on key areas, leaving other parts exposed. Volkswagen, however, basically does full coverage. I don't know if from Volkswagen's perspective full spraying actually reduces costs and better builds the brand. The thickness of the spraying is very considerable. After removing the protective plates on both sides, you can still see the chassis armor spraying. The white low wax traces indicate that the cavity waxing is quite thorough and uses a lot of material. Almost every processing hole has wax dripping out. After removing the plates, the subframe of Lavida PRO is not a full-frame design, which is an objective fact at this level. It uses a traditional cradle beam or butterfly-shaped subframe, with a hard 4-point bolt connection to the body. This matches my driving experience. Vibrations are indeed a bit more, but the lateral response of the whole car is quite direct. The internal cavity wax process of this subframe, especially corrosion protection on some inner weld seams, is quite well filled. These details often go unnoticed but are taken seriously. We also found some wax residue from the processing holes. At the front bumper and front wheel arch area, I discovered two details. The most obvious one is visible without dismantling. The Lavida PRO's air curtain, also called air curtain in English, is a genuine air duct with two internal airflow paths. One is certainly for the side curtain that goes over the wheel mesh, and the other likely blows upwards, cooperating with the ring-shaped recess behind the wheel arch to optimize aerodynamics or reduce noise inside the wheel arch. Also, near the front wheel, there is a brake cooling vent connected via duct extended from the bottom of the front bumper, as well as ventilation holes on the wheel arch. These are not decorative but functional. After removing the front bumper and foam, the impact beam is exposed. Many people think cars at this price point might not have much to talk about in safety, but after teardown we found otherwise. First, although the impact beam is steel, its cross-section is double-layered, possibly optimized for offset collisions. Inside both sides of the impact beam there is a C-shaped reinforcement, and a curved transition connects it to the middle. Second, the lower subbeam, also known as the pedestrian anti-roll-in beam, has a relatively complete structure. On both sides, it forms a ring structure that transfers some collision forces from below to the longitudinal beam, compensating for the lack of a full-frame subframe. Additionally, the energy absorption box of the impact beam has omnidirectional crumple folds that help absorb energy. The overall coverage of the impact beam is quite comprehensive. I estimate it covers over 90%. The suspension setup consists of front MacPherson and rear multilink with cast iron bearing seats. The control arms are single-layer steel. However, I checked and these cylinders are high-strength steel, with yield strength reaching 680 MPa and tensile strength 800 MPa. The rear control arms have a similar design philosophy. So from one perspective, suspension is not just about materials or configuration, both need to be considered together. At the same time, it is necessary to understand some dialectical unity. For example, the Lavida PRO does not use hydraulic bushings, its lower arms use rubber ones. Even so, Volkswagen's internal standards for these ordinary rubber bushings are very high, with strict damping coefficients and bushing lifespan selection. Sometimes I really don't know what to say to bloggers who just use a magnet to check suspension and then draw conclusions. This time we did a deeper teardown and disassembled the entire MacPherson strut. Looking at the top area, there is actually a bearing in the middle. Inside, it's a set of metal ball bearings combined with nylon or palm retainers, serving as shock absorption plus rotation plus lateral force absorption. In detail, after removing two seat rings, it can independently form a bearing shell pressing the balls in the middle. This should be a typical angular contact bearing because the shock absorber strut is not mounted vertically. It is installed at a slight angle, so besides vertical downward pressure there is some lateral force. This is the purpose of the angular contact bearing here. Regarding brakes, we roughly measured the front suspension brake disc diameter at 285, paired with a single-piston floating caliper. The friction material is a graphite-based and silica fiber reinforced hybrid formula. The steering system is DPEPS with dual small gears. We specifically benchmarked this steering system, and the PPM data is good. The assist motor is from Bosch Huyu. This dual small gear structure has one small gear at the steering column input and another at the small gear output assist end. The advantage of two assist points is a more even torque distribution and smoother linear response. The core is the fine-tuned assist motor curve, providing a more delicate feedback. Objectively, the automotive industry generally believes that dual small gear DPEPS is better than CEPS, which controls assist by tube, though it still has some gap compared to REPS. Next, let's talk about the rear suspension. The major upgrade this time is from the previous torsion beam non-independent suspension to a multi-link independent suspension. There are 3 arms, first, second and third transverse arms and 1 longitudinal arm at the front plus a bracket, totaling 4 links. Compared with the past torsion beam structure, the biggest advantage is that the wheel motion trajectory better fits the road surface, as the torsion beam in principle has higher mutual interference between left and right wheels. This type of independent suspension is generally better. For example, as mentioned earlier, when encountering crosswinds at high speed, the overall vehicle's flight linear adherence and rear axle followability are more flexible than torsion beams. Of course, many brands have multi-link suspensions. On this car, the focus was on the balance between lateral stiffness and vertical compliance. That is, the suspension aims to be harder to withstand cornering but emphasizes independence when driving on rough roads. I've seen many people say SAIC Volkswagen's chassis tuning always has a German flavor. What does that mean? Such descriptions are vague and mystical. In fact, chassis tuning is a systematic engineering project. Engineers don't focus on perfecting any single part alone but on coordinating them. Shock absorbers control energy decay, springs define stiffness, control arm geometry determines tire and body posture characteristics. Bushing stiffness indirectly defines whether this mechanism is obedient or willful. This is what we call system tuning. Every part follows logic, no solo performances. In this episode, let's pick one component for partial analysis, the shock absorbers, 1 front and 1 rear. Now they are in a drained state and we removed the piston. We even cut a window on the side so you can see the shiny piston rod. The soul of the shock absorber is the valve inside, which controls how the oil flows when it flows and how much. It's like the heart of the shock absorber, controlling the damping forces variation at different speeds. 2 curves of the shock absorber are especially important, damping force versus speed and damping force versus displacement, also called the bread graph. The curve I have is a test result of this car. We focus on the force-speed curve with speed on the horizontal axis and damping force on the vertical axis, also called the FV curve. It has a particularly important valve opening point, with 2 curves for compression and rebound. This shock absorber has this point, which is the critical pressure difference for the valve plate opening. It reflects the valve system's softness and response speed, demonstrating how the vehicle transitions from small vibrations to large motions, showing comfort and consistency. Imagine the shock absorber as an oil-filled syringe. When the piston moves, oil is squeezed through a needle hole. When you press gently, oil flows slowly, which is fine. What controls this is the small needle hole that controls flow. When you press hard, the needle hole is insufficient, maybe the entire needle is pushed out. The internal spring valve plate is similarly pushed open by oil pressure, allowing oil to flow through a larger hole next to it. That valve plate opening moment is the so-called valve opening point. From this, combined with subjective driving, you can interpret the car's style. So how is Lavida PRO? Quantitatively, from the picture, its low-speed compression section at 30 ms mainly determines overall comfort, like whether it is crisp when you go over a speed bump. The high-speed section determines some support characteristics during driving state changes, such as whether the chassis can instantly hold the body's lateral sway when changing lanes. A fan once asked me what suspension tuning is. Here, it follows a V-shaped iterative development process from top-down and bottom-up in a closed loop. During the vehicle definition phase, after determining the vehicle's positioning, target users, and driving characteristics, the chassis target parameters are basically locked, such as front-rear axle load distribution, rear suspension space constraints, fuel tank, spare tire well, and how many exhaust pipes are needed. Wheel track and suspension travel are checked. After design meetings and management reviews, the vehicle is basically finalized. Then the chassis department gets an overall steel framework specification. Is it 4-link, 5-link, or torsion beam? Lavida PRO obviously defined it as 4-link. After these definitions, geometric angles, spring attachment points, and nominal stiffness ranges are set. Then engineers start the detailed matching phase, adjusting spring rates, simple curves, bushing stiffness, and stabilizer bar diameter. At this stage, the work is to physically realize theoretical target performance, such as comfort frequency, damping ratio, and lateral stiffness distribution. When defining specific parts, it enters the prototype phase for fine-tuning shock absorbers and springs. Theoretically, engineers also tune shock absorbers very finely, matching different springs to optimize overall vehicle data. During mass production preparation, further secondary tuning is done on multi-channel KC rigs and road labs. After all this, finalized shock absorbers are produced in quantity and sent to subassembly durability and full vehicle road durability testing before official release. Wang once executed a powertrain process like this. I have a takeaway about tuning. Tuning is not about making the car to your liking but making it the way it should be. I believe this applies equally to suspension. From definition to finalization, from testing to matching, completing that V-shaped process loop is true tuning. Some companies skip too many steps in between and don't take durability seriously, which is irresponsible. Through this partial teardown and sharing, I believe viewers can feel that even in the 100,000 yuan segment, SAIC Volkswagen still assigns a complete verification process for this chassis system. You could say every weld is tested repeatedly. From a strategic perspective, a rigorous process might be SAIC Volkswagen's survival path. By the way, since we are dismantling, let's talk about the hidden door handles. Recently, many people worry about opening hidden door handles. The Lavida PRO uses a hybrid electric and mechanical external opening method. Let me show you. Compared to an electric-only design, it has some redundancy advantages, especially as an external mechanical lever. After pulling the door, it's convenient, naturally possessing mechanical redundant locking. We took it apart to show details. This structure mechanically connects the internal pull lock and door lock, meaning mechanical linkage. After a collision, the drive behind it can complete the pop-up within 1 second after clicking. I checked many collision scenarios under China NCAP and CNCAP standards such as frontal, side, and rollover collisions, all of which properly popped open. The car has also undergone 150,000 cycles of opening and closing durability testing in high and low temperatures. Another detail you might not notice is that even if the Lavida PRO's door handle loses power, it can still be pried open, exposing the keyhole. The whole handle acts like a seesaw to open it. After opening, the internal keyhole and external lock points can be used normally. Additionally, we cracked open the top contact motor. Normally, the opening command uses 60% to 80% PWM duty cycle, yielding an effective voltage of about 9 V. If the motor fails to open after 3 attempts, a stall signal triggers an ice-breaking logic. At full voltage top contact, the force is very large. Over 300 newtons, so this door handle mechanism is not prone to freezing failure. If you say ice can't be broken at 300 N, that would only happen if the entire car has no power at all. This mechanism is quite expensive in the industry, a product of Volkswagen's platform sharing. In the future, with regulation changes, door handles might have other forms. Also to add, this car has 7 airbags, which is rare at this price. The additional one is the front middle airbag, a design previously only seen on cars over 200,000 yuan. This generation of SAIC Volkswagen cars performs well, including the entry-level Lavida Zinri, all achieving full G ratings at CNCAP. Volkswagen has emphasized safety construction over the years. If you want to see airbags visually, we'd better detonate one live to see how it inflates. We are ready to start. Holding the remote, countdown, 3, 2, 1, boom. This is the left side. Now look at the middle one along the center line. Its purpose is to prevent the heads of the driver and front passenger from hitting each other during side impacts. So it's an additional airbag with very good buffering. We all exploded. For several minutes the airbag pressure remained. It has surrounding vents to slowly release the gas. The left one is a normal side airbag. To conclude this episode, Lau Wang wants to say the partial teardown and explanation of Lavida PRO is meant to share SAIC Volkswagen's product definition methodology and perseverance. Through teardown, subjective experience and engineering tests, we reveal some design details and fundamental qualities of the Lavida PRO chassis. Overall, the launch of Lavida PRO, from interior to intelligence, from exterior body to chassis quality. Price from 88,800 to 112,900 yuan, is quite competitive for its segment. Combined with previous episodes where Lau Wang dismantled the 1.5 TEA2 11 EVO2 engine and updated DQ200 transmission, you will find this car's product system is an evolved collection accumulated by SAIC Volkswagen over more than 10 years. Currently, many brands amplify visible buzz. But SAIC Volkswagen still chooses to polish quality in unseen areas. This perseverance may not be flashy but deserves recognition and notice. Don't you agree? I'm Lau Wang. See you next time.